And so this is the key, is a lot of people don't go on vitamins until there's a problem.
I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution. Welcome back to another edition of RX Muscles Supplement and Science Review. Joining me today is our good friend Carmen, or as they like to call her, the DNA Diva. What is up, Carmen Tocheniuk?
Hi, everyone. How are you today?
I love that. I always tell you I love the name, the DNA Diva.
I know I came up with that in 1996. And it's kind of a funny story if you want to hear it quickly. My original goal was to be a wrestler.
So it was a WWE name, in other words.
Yeah, I wanted to be a diva wrestler. And I was studying DNA at the time. So they just went hand in hand. And I thought, what a good mix that was, the DNA Diva. So yeah, that's where it originated from.
Right. What happened to your red hair?
Oh, I got rid of it 2 years ago now. Just because it was hard to maintain. I do miss it though.
I thought you were. I actually always thought you were a natural redhead. You're not.
No. I was strawberry blonde growing up, and then started dyeing my hair.
Well, I guess strawberry blonde is kind of closer to red than dark hair is, in essence.
Yeah.
So, all right. Enough about hair. Let's talk about DNA, because DNA seems to be growing in popularity in terms of checking for diseases, checking for nutritional statuses. You've been talking about this probably before. I think you were the first person to ever bring it up to me years ago, back in, I think it was 2015 or 16 or something like that. I think you first approached me. You tested my DNA. We went over it a couple shows. And looked at all my deficiencies in life. Only I'm open to talking about my deficiencies, not my accolades, but my deficiencies. And what I realized, and what you've been trying to, get the word out, so to speak, is that you can tell a lot about what's going on in your body, and by what nutritional supplements you need, what foods you should gear your body towards, based on what your genetic advantages are and your genetic disadvantages are. And the only way to really know that is to test your DNA, which is something that you've been doing for multiple years. As a matter of fact, I sell the test kit that you guys use on my DavePalumbo.com website. So you can buy that test kit, swab your cheek, and you send it back to them. And then Carmen gets in touch with you, and you get a whole big report. I know a lot of people have bought those testers from me because they wanted to know what was in their DNA. What's the newest development on the DNA front? I know we're going to talk vitamin E today, but before we get to that.
Well, I think that my career is really starting to change into a whole new health aspect. The history of me being a female professional bodybuilder and personal trainer, with this information, empowered me to truly help people from a health aspect. And way back when, I thought I'd be training people for the rest of my life. And now I'm helping people to get pregnant. I'm helping them to prevent cancer. I'm helping them to deal with cancer. I've got people with migraine headaches, severe addiction issues. So I think that's the new thing since we've talked, Dave, is that my career is really advanced into the outcome, just recognizing the outcomes of what my work with DNA has really started to prove. And it's been very, very enjoyable for me to see how understanding the DNA architecture of the individual, and then applying protocols and action plans that are very easy for the person to do, can really change somebody's life.
Well, a lot of people who watch this show regularly know that I had surgery in March on my aorta, which was enlarged. And a lot of times enlarged aortas that need to get repaired are usually can be due to connective tissue diseases. In other words, you have a connective tissue disease like Marfan syndrome, or what's the other, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. There's a bunch of other ones. They actually have like 190 or 200 different connective tissue disorders out there that they've identified so far. And I wanted to see if I had it because I'm very flexible. I have like a lot of the symptoms of Ehlers-Danlos, and I wanted to see if, because if I have it, then there's a chance that my children would have it. So I got my DNA tested by a special lab that does. It's very hard to find. And nowadays, now I noticed all of a sudden, right after I finally found someone in Tampa who can do it for me, Quest Diagnostics now, if you want to pay, you can just go in there and they'll test you for a whole bunch of genetic connective tissue disorders. Their panel is not quite as extensive as the one I had done, but it's pretty extensive. And you don't need a prescription. You can just literally just go in there and tell them you want to be tested for that. And I got tested, and I thought I was definitely coming up positive for something, right? Because I have every symptom of every symptom. The only thing I can't do is I can't hyperextend my elbows. And I came back negative. Nothing showed up. So I had none of these, at least none of the identified connective tissue disorders do I have. Doesn't mean I don't have one, and maybe they'll find one in 2 years from now that I have. But right now I have nothing. So, but it was good to know that, because at least now I don't have to worry about my kids having like a severe, potentially, dangerous connective tissue disorder. But there's a lot you can tell other than major diseases. I mean, we've talked about, like on my report, years ago, I have zero ability to digest lactose, which I kind of knew just from experiencing, drinking milk and having major problems, going to the bathroom. I also found out that, I'm very good at burning fat, which I kind of knew, but, I'm good at handling caffeine, because I was afraid of caffeine. And then when you don't get so much sleep when you have kids, I started drinking a little coffee, and it never bothered. It never raised my heart rate, didn't raise my blood pressure. And that's, my DNA completely confirms that. So what you brought up to me, I said, you said we should do another show. And I said, well, what's a good topic? And, with COVID, going on now, I don't even know if you're allowed to say that word anymore on YouTube, but I'm going to say it, going around, clot is a big concern, not just with COVID, but with the, with the thing you take, to potentially stop COVID. There are worries that people are getting clots and getting cardiovascular events, and some people are dying from it. And I wanted to talk to you about clotting disorders, because personally, I'm not a clotter. I'm a bleeder, meaning that if I don't stop like my fish oils and if I don't stop vitamin E prior to surgery, I could actually bleed so much. And it's happened to me where I actually need transfusions. When my PT time and INR time, which is the measure of how much you bleed, or how long it takes your blood to clot, mine is very high, which means it takes a long time for my blood to clot, which is good. It means I'm not going to throw clots. It just means if I have to get a surgery or something like that, I have to be off of these substances. Give us some insight into what you guys test over there that will determine what your clotting times are, and how vitamin E relates to that.
Well, sure. So there's a really interesting gene that we look at, and it's the F5 gene. And I guess the action of that gene is blood clotting. So the solution to that gene, for example, I don't know how many people know about DNA, but I wanted to just maybe give a little lesson here.
Yeah. Do it.
Half of your mom and you get half of your dad. And we look at those genes to see if your dad gave you a good gene or a bad gene, or if your mom gave you a good gene or a bad gene. And from that, we're able to see, how functional is this gene for the individual. And that's really where our study has lied all of these years, was to understand the architecture of you so that we can, for example, recommend things like vitamin E. Maybe vitamin E could save your life. Maybe vitamin E you don't really need. And vitamin E is very important when it comes to blood clotting. And I'll give you some stats. I know 1 in 1,000 people will just die of an abnormal blood clot, just out of the blue, and nobody really knew why. Then we started to look into that a little more, and the studies are there to prove everything. That if you have one variant copy, meaning a poor copy from either parent, that will increase your risk of a blood clot for anywhere from 3 to 8 out of 1,000. And if you're carrying 2 variant copies, meaning 2 negative copies from your mom and your dad, that increases your risk all the way up to 80 out of 1,000 people instantly. So if you're carrying that gene, it's very important to understand that for yourself before you make lifestyle choices when it comes to bodybuilding, supplements, various different things, because that really truly could change your life. You want to keep the inflammatory down. Now, I do want to say that there's other genes that could also add to the risk level of that blood clot. For example, if you're
Now,
also
I just want to stop you for a second. The gene you're talking about is coagulation factor 5, right? It's called F, or abbreviated F5. Is that correct?
correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so if you have a defect in it, let's say you have a 50% defect in it,
Okay.
because only one of your parents has it. What does that mean for your clotting potential?
So that means that potential of that person has a risk level increased of 3 to 8 out of 1,000 people for an instant abnormal blood clot, either to their lower leg, their heart, or their lungs, or even their brain.
No apparent reason, just because their clotting doesn't work well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
And
what
also,
about if you have 2 copies of the gene? Let's say you're on the DNA testing, it comes back, you have 0%. You're like really bad. You're in the red.
yeah, then it is worrisome, because your risk level will go up to 80 out of 1,000. So it goes from 10 times the amount.
Right. Now, when you take vitamin E, number one, what kind of dosage are we talking about per day to help neutralize some of these negative effects? And number two, how good is vitamin E at neutralizing these effects? Because I know on my body, I take vitamin E and I don't clot.
Right.
I'll clot if I cut myself shaving, but it takes a lot longer. So I'm not one to potentially throw a clot. So when I had my surgery, after they were so worried, they worry about clots after surgery, and I knew that I'm just not a clot. I'm not like a random clotter. Like I would have to have like a serious problem in my body to throw a clot. But other people clot real easy, and that's what they worry about, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Well, and to be honest, if you have another gene, which is, say, the inflammatory response gene, Dave, this area becomes very important for that person, because vitamin E also helps the inflammatory response. So there's another part of the DNA that we look at, and we can see, how does your body respond to inflammatory? So if you're also negative in that area, I believe that this area could be like 400 times the amount of risk. So this is why vitamin E and on a proper vitamin protocol from a younger age, before there's a problem, like don't wait till there's a problem, because this time it will be too late, is to be on a really good vitamin E. And from DNA, we cannot tell exactly how much you should take, because we don't know your weight. We don't know your energy levels. We don't know what else you're eating. So DNA is what you're born with. And then it takes a very good practitioner, coach, dietitian to help you to understand how much vitamin E should I really be adding to my program. And that's why, I really hope that a lot of coaches come on board with using DNA testing through, especially you, Dave, because this would really help to just do a little more due diligence for their clients, but also the client needs a good coach that understands DNA. And we have a great certification course for client or coaches to take the course and to be able to understand questions like this. So to give you an exact number of, well, how much vitamin E should this person take just looking at their DNA? I can't give you an honest answer just looking at their DNA. I need some feedback from that client to figure that out.
I personally think that around 200 to 400 micrograms per day is ideal for vitamin E. That's what I've noticed. Because what vitamin E does is the way it actually inhibits clotting, the way I remember it from school, is that it antagonizes the vitamin K clotting cascade. So, as we all know, that vitamin K1, not the K2 we hear about nowadays, which is what directs calcium away from the blood vessels, but we're talking about K1, which was the original clotting factor they found. And that's why they named it vitamin K, because in German, I think clotting is spelled with a K. And that cascade that's part of the whole clotting process, and I don't want to go through it, it's too complicated, is antagonized by vitamin E. So it kind of throws a monkey wrench and doesn't let vitamin K work the way it should. So it kind of just slows down the clotting process a little bit. And, I guess the more you take, the more it would do that, I have to assume, Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so this is the key is a lot of people don't go on vitamins until there's a problem or they're, in their mid 30s or 40s or even 50s. And this is why I think it's so important to start feeding the body correctly far before there's a problem, because from a younger age you can truly empower your body through proper nutrients and vitamins, and to know where you should be spending your money. Like really, like how cool is that to know where you should spend your money on your vitamins?
It's also important to understand that, each vitamin has a threshold amount that you need to take for it to actually do something. I always tell people, just because you take a multivitamin that has everything in it, but it's one pill a day, there's probably most of those vitamins, there's probably no effective dosage of anything in there. So if you're taking 20 micrograms of vitamin E in your 1-a-day capsule, or whatever you got, that's almost like nothing. You might as well not even take anything. It's pixie dust, as we call it. So you got to take a vitamin that actually has, potency of these real vitamins. Like, I mean, and you've seen my formula from Species Nutrition. V Mineralized took me a really long time to formulate it. It was expensive, and it's 10 pills a day because, we're putting methylated B12 in there. We're putting, vitamin E in real dosages in there, 200 microgram dosages. We're putting vitamin C in 500 milligram dosage. We're putting vitamin D3 in there. So we're putting calcium, magnesium. You have to put effective dosages into a product. You can't just put it on the label so that people say, "Oh, great, I'm covered." So when you go to the store and you buy your vitamins, make sure that you're getting effective dosage. You don't have to take mine, but if you're not going to, you got to make sure that what you're taking has stuff that actually has an effective dosage in there. And if you don't know what that is, then you need to contact the coach, someone like Carmen or myself, or have someone be your advisor in that sense, so that we can recommend the right type of formula for you, because you don't want to be wasting your money and your time. Here you are thinking, oh, I'm going out of my way. I'm taking my vitamins every day. And meanwhile, you're not even really getting an effective dose of anything. You could be taking vitamin B12 all day long, but if you can't methylate it, and we've done this on other shows, we've talked about vitamin K, vitamin B12. You can't methylate it, then you're kind of wasting your time just taking a regular vitamin, B12. You need to use a methylated form of it. So there is definitely an education to taking vitamins, is what I'm saying. And I think the DNA that the testing that we're doing now with this is going to give you a much better, more comprehensive understanding of what your body needs, as opposed to what maybe your best friend needs, because your needs are different based on your genetics.
Yeah, and the other huge thing I've seen over the years, because I've been, in the industry now for almost 25 years, Dave, owning gyms, to different supplement shops and such. And, sometimes it was easy to get people on vitamins, but it was hard to get them to stay on the vitamins, like for a longer period of time. They would say,
well, you know why that is, right?
Bottles and fall off the vitamins. And they would say, oh, I'm not really feeling the difference. And that's why I love the DNA test, because it gives you that concrete evidence right there in front of you. It's science. It's not lying. It's specifically on you. It's not some other just big study. It's you. And it gives you that reason as to why you need to stay on it. And that's, to me, that's life changing, because if people don't know, they don't know. And back in the day, we didn't know how important vitamins were. We didn't understand really what we're doing. We didn't understand the power of really what vitamins could do for your genetic expression, to live longer, healthier, happier, sexier, more fit, with less chronic pain, disease, and illness. And that's really what we're trying to do here, is to turn on your genetics, support your weak areas of your body so that you can live better. And if you know that vitamin E is going to make that difference, then you better get on that and stay on it. And that's really what the message is.
I started researching vitamins, way back when I was still competing and everything like that. I started realizing that all these vitamins were, and I remember from medical school too, all these vitamins are integral in all the chemical reactions in our body. So our chemical reactions all use these vitamins and minerals as cofactors in all the chemical reactions. So if they're missing and you don't have enough of them, you're not going to, you're not going to fat, at maximum efficiency. You're not going to engage in protein synthesis reactions, maximum efficiency. You're not going to go through the glycolytic cycle, the Krebs cycle, with maximum efficiency if there's stuff that's missing. You don't have enough magnesium, or you don't have enough calcium, or you don't have enough of niacin. There's different, requirements for all these different chemical reactions. So I knew you needed, enough of the stuff. But, back in the day, there was like the Weeder mega packs, and there was like animal packs that were just like, animal packs were just like 1 million vitamins in this one pack. And we would take them because we figured, it's probably absorbable. Then we found out like a lot of those initial years ago when they were those big solid pills, they didn't even dissolve, so weren't even absorbing these things. So when I set out to make like, a line of nutrition products, I wanted to make something that would take all the guesswork out of everything. Not for me, basically. I was sick of having 400 bottles on my countertop. So I said, I'm just going to put everything you need into one, formula of vitamins and minerals, and I'm going to have one thing of essential fats, and then I won't have to worry about taking any more vitamins on top of that, because it'll all be in there in the right dosage, in the right form. And that's really how V-Mineralize and Omega-Lize came about in my supplement line. It was no one in their right mind will tell you when you're starting a vitamin company or you're starting a supplement company to produce a multivitamin and essential fatty acid supplement, because they don't make money unless you know how to educate people and have them explain to them why they need to take these things. Pre-workouts and amino acids sell way better, and so does creatine. So I selfishly made the line for myself, and I said, you know what? If when because people always ask me what you take, so if I tell them, well, this is what I take, and it's the truth, then they'll use it too. And it took a long time. Species nutrition has been around for a very long time, and people don't realize it's been years. And the reason it was successful is because we constantly built up customer base, and I never overextended myself because I knew that it was going to be a slow process. But now with the DNA testing, I think, like you said, there's a lot more solid evidence to show you, hey, I know in theory this is what you should be doing, but here's your DNA. You're deficient in these vitamins, or you're deficient in the way you process these food types. You need to take these nutritional supplements if you want to combat what you're deficient in. And I think people like to see evidence for what they're being told, because like you said, you don't feel vitamins. You just don't get sick. You just do things more efficiently, but you might not be able to quantify it, right?
Absolutely. And I have, being in the bodybuilding industry for this long, I've had the opportunity to see how vitamins can encourage athletic performance for bodybuilders immensely. Like, it's unbelievable how you can lower certain supplements, increase these vitamins based on your DNA, and get far superior results. And
Yes.
I've seen over and over and over again. And also, I wanted to say, Dave, I absolutely love your Species brand. I've been using it, and also clients have been using it for years. And I collect data for all our business for machine learning and AI based on outcomes, so we can really track what's happening when we apply certain protocols. And we always have great outcomes with our clients using your products. So I use that. And
I just remember back. Yeah, I remember when I was in the hospital when I was 17. I had my appendix taken out, and the guy in the bed next to me was an Olympic pole vaulter. He had a good-looking guy. He had a contract with Pierre Cardin clothing. Okay, I've told the story before, and he would wear a different Pierre Cardin shirt every day because he got them for free, and he would just throw them in the garbage after he wore them. And I said, send them over, give them to me. So I'll take them home and wash them, and I'll wear them. I didn't have any fancy clothes when I was in high school. My father was a teacher. My mom had passed away. We didn't have like a lot of money, so he was throwing me all these shirts. Then we became friends, and he's like, he was watching me eat like a ton of junk food. My grandmother was bringing me junk food to the hospital, and I was eating ice cream and all kinds of crap. He's like, he goes, "You're an athlete?" I said, "Yeah, I'm a runner, and I play soccer." And he's like, "You eat terribly." And I had no body fat, but and he's like, "You got to eat more protein. You got to take vitamins." I said, "Well, tell me what to do," because I didn't have anyone who was to be a mentor, like in that sense. I didn't know anything, I just was like a genetically, gifted athlete, I guess. So he writes out all this stuff for me. There had to be about 10 bottles of different vitamins, and he wanted me to make these shakes with brewer's yeast, that was all big back in the 80s, and all kinds of lecithin, things that are probably still relevant today. And you know me, I'm like a machine. I went home and bought every single thing he told me. I had all these vitamin bottles on the counter. I never missed anything. I was making shakes, even though they tasted disgusting. I didn't care, because he made a big influence on me. And you know what? My performance improved. I felt better. My skin cleared up, and because I wasn't eating as much junk food. And he changed the way I viewed things. Matter of fact, I'm still friends with him to this day. And he, ironically enough, just as a side note, he had cystic fibrosis, and that's why he was in the hospital. And most people with cystic fibrosis don't usually live more than 30 years. They usually die in their 30s. He is the longest living cystic fibrosis patient in the world. He's just recently had a lung transplant. I think he had a pancreas transplant and a liver and kidney transplant. He's had like two operations with transplants. He's still going, this guy. He's in his 60s. He still runs and bikes every day. The guy's unbelievable. Most motivational guy I know. His name is Jerry Cahill. Still remember his name, and we talk to this day. I don't know if he really remembers. He says he remembers, but he actually came to my house. He had a contract with Nike too, because he was, Nike sponsored all the Olympic athletes, and he brought me sneakers for free, and because he was just a good guy. He didn't have to do that. It was crazy. He drove all the way to my house, and I remember, it was a big influence in my life. He definitely made a big impact, and I told him that. It's funny that I found him on Facebook after all those years. I'm shocked I remembered his name, because I don't remember anything. But he was the first person to really tell me about vitamins. But there were no multivitamins back then. There was just like, you had to buy everything, if you wanted to get real dosages. Today, the nutritional marketplace is such that you can really get good quality products. We know about methylated vitamins now. It's like a brave new world. People are so lucky to be in this day and age, because there is so much available that just wasn't there 20, 30 years ago.
I absolutely agree. And I'm more and more fascinated with my career and DNA, Dave, every single week, when I'm seeing what truly targeted vitamins and targeted nutrition and training can do for somebody. I've been doing it for since 1996, and I get more excited by the week because of what I'm witnessing.
What do you think about these blood tests that people get? Like, a lot of times I see it from my international clients. They get blood work, and it's like they give you the status of every vitamin in your body, every essential fish oil product. Yeah. It's like a whole read. Are those accurate? I mean, because it's like a snapshot you're taking. I mean, does it really give? I mean, I don't understand how they can give you the vitamin status of your body in one single blood work, type of thing. What do you think about the accuracy of that? I would think the DNA testing would be much more accurate,
Well, okay, so I'm so happy you brought that up, actually. So there are two separate tests. DNA testing is what you're born with, like the architecture of you. It's your blueprint, it's your roadmap. Whereas blood work is specifically of what is happening right now when they pull that blood from you at that moment. So it's in the now. So DNA could prevent a disease 40 years ahead of time, for example. Whereas blood work is saying, Houston, we've got a problem. So,
right, but what are they basing these blood work levels on? Like, what's the normal? Like, I mean, how do they know what the normal vitamin C blood level should be, or the normal fish oil? I just feel like who's making up these values?
Okay. So here's the lowdown. Is what we need point of care testing more frequently. So one of the other companies that I work with, it's called BioStream, and we've invented a little gadget that you plug into your phone, and you're going to be able to blood test or poke, pee, or spit on it, and it's going to be able to tell you within 2 minutes instantly what all those levels are for you. So blood work is definitely great, Dave. There's no doubt, but it's not done frequent enough to get a proper overall picture of what's happening. For example, if you your vitamins last night before bed, and then you worked out and sweated it all out, and then you went for your blood test, you're going to get a different blood test than, if you did two things different. So
that's my point. It's just a snapshot. Yeah, right. It's like, you don't take your blood pressure once a day and say, oh, that's my blood pressure for the whole day,
Right. Yeah. I really think the most important thing to health is more frequent testing. Like we should be getting, and that's why we're working so hard to get point of care testing out there to people so that you're able to accurately do that for your hormones, even. Like up here
Thank
in
you for that.
Canada, to get a hormone test is hard. And we need to be able to, like a woman should be able to test her hormones every month if she chooses to.
Yeah, especially
I think that's where we're going to start to see real in disease.
and when do you think they're at? When will the technology be there where they can do point of with your phone testing?
Okay. So we have that available now. We originally invented that for COVID, but we couldn't get it FDA approved quick enough. So we started looking at other avenues that we could use the same testing for, that anything that had an antibody, basically. So it's sitting here, Dave. We have it. We don't know. You know us in science. We're always we're the science people. We don't necessarily know how to market and get it out there. So
Right. Send it to me.
this
I'll
is,
mark it.
we could talk more. Yeah, we do. It is invented. It is there. We just
Is it
don't.
accurate?
It's not being. It is so accurate. You can see it on BioStream up here on our website. It's 99.99% accurate. It's extremely accurate.
What does it cost? Like,
And
what's the cost of something like that?
right now, the little test that you plug into, or the little kit that you plug into your phone, is going to range about $100 to $200 to purchase. And then the little testing strips right now are $40. But with volume, we will be able to get that down to about $5 a test. And we can even put up to 16 tests on one swab.
I would be testing all day long. I would be a neurotic because I would be doing it too much. Like I test my blood sugar all day long. I don't know why, but I like to know data and forget about it. I know so many hypochondriacs that they would be testing their blood, forget about it. It would be insane. I can't believe that the technology is there already.
Yeah, it's OCT-ET technology. So I'll send you the link for it when we get off this call. But like really, how amazing it is to be able to say, okay, I'm taking this brand of. Okay.
What's the website? BioStream.
BioStream. And John Murphy is our CEO of that company.
At biostream.com?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Keep talking, I'll pull it up. I don't think that was the right.
Yeah, so
I'm sure it's biostream.com?
Look at it. There might be a dash in it, or just put BioStream John Murphy and it will come up.
Okay.
I think there's a dash in it.
Yeah, there's a bio-stream.ca.
Yeah. So this is the thing about point of care testing, that if you're taking a vitamin, say a Costco vitamin, and you test yourself and it's like, oh, my vitamin D is low on this. And then you can go into, say, a Species brand, and you can actually test yourself and say, oh, my vitamin D is great now. You know instantly for yourself that brand is working for you. And again, I'll say it again, that point of care testing is really, truly what we need to really start enhancing our performance and preventing disease. So yeah, that's what you can see, the little tester right there.
That's great. I can't believe they have that technology already. That is amazing.
We've had it for like a while now, Dave. We just, again, it's we're trying to get it into more of the wellness factor. I would love to get the fitness community into it. It's just, again, these things are so far advanced. Like, being in science and being in the labs that I've been in, some of these things that I've seen, they won't hit the market for 30 to 40 years.
Well, have you guys mass produced these things? Like, why can't I sell them on my website? I know my people watching here would buy these things. I would buy them. Well,
we need to, it's all in like volume. So we could, get them made. So this right now, we're hand making these right now at the company. We need to be able to, I guess, get a lot of investment to get to the next level. Yeah,
you got to go to China, unfortunately, and have them made.
Yeah, the science there. Yes, the science is here, you guys. Just like our DNA testing. Like, I got into DNA testing in 2004. Like, we opened our very first lab in 2006. And,
Catching
just
on now.
now, basically 20 years later that we're starting to, get the word out. So I always find this is the most challenging part, is how do we take science to market?
Yeah, because it's, there's always a cost effect, but the fact that the technology is there, and I know that people, especially with, people wanting to do self-testing at home, people test themselves for COVID,
Yeah.
people are they don't even want to go to doctors anymore. And if you can get this,
Yeah.
the problem, our medical establishment doesn't want that out there. I can guarantee it, because it's going to take away money from the blood labs. It's going to take away money from the doctor's office visits. But you know what? It's good to have that at home. Most people who don't have a medical background will still go to the doctors because they won't know what to do. But there are people who can do testing at home and will know how to interpret the test results. And people who
Yeah.
are very health conscious will interpret them that way.
And even, one that I find really that would be very beneficial for us as athletes is to understand our CRP and CK levels more. So, for example, in my DNA, I don't recover very well. So I can't train super hard and keep going and going and going. I need to let my legs rest, and it sucks, but I have to do that. So back in the day when I pro hockey, for example, I was always having this no pain, no gain. Carmen, you're not doing enough. And I would just destroy myself and end up getting injured or some dang thing, or getting a chest infection, or ear immune system goes down. So if I would have had these little testers that said, hey, Carmen, you got to just walk and stretch today. Like, your CRP, your inflammatory levels are through the roof. Take the day off. It would have gave me that, what do you call it? That, that
you need the data
to take the day off, because my brain, professional athlete, is like, I'm not taking the day off.
Right.
So I think,
I think I'm a very poor recoverer too. Yeah.
So that's just a simple example.
Look, I know that there are bodybuilders that are very worried about kidney function, like creatinine. And I know they have these creatinine testers. As a matter of fact, I almost bought one at one point because I was so paranoid about, when I was competing, about kidney health, with people who I knew were having kidney issues, that I almost bought one. And then I said to them, it was very expensive at the time. We're talking 15 years ago. And I said, if I buy this thing, I'll be testing my creatinine 400 times a day. I'll have a nervous breakdown. I said, I can't do it. So I didn't get it. But on a multi-test like this, where you can test multiple different things on one thing, and you can use your iPhone. I mean, for God's sake, how much easier is it than that? I mean, that's just ridiculous. I don't know one single person who I'm friends with that wouldn't buy this device. I mean, that I probably could sell 1,000 of them just on our audience that watches the show on a regular basis. They would probably buy them. So make it happen. Make these things.
Well, we would love to get it. Yeah. We would love to get it going and out there, Dave. So this is where we've got it. It's here, it works, and it's great. So.
You know what? If you don't do it, iPhone will. Why don't you sell the technology to Apple or something like that? Let them make it. That's what you should do.
John, I'm a very small partner in the company.
I know you are. If I was the owner of that company, I would go to Apple and I would say, look, this is a no-brainer. We've developed the technology for your phone. Here, make us an offer, because they could mass produce it, and they would make it affordable too,
And they could market it to the whole thing is marketing, message out, and motivate people to want to know. Dave, that's another thing with our DNA testing, is just getting people in the know of why DNA is so important to know and understand. That's taken a long time to get that word out. So you need a lot of money for marketing, is pretty much what I'm saying.
That's why you need Apple. Apple has an unlimited budget. All right, guys, what I want to just put it out there, go on DavePalumbo.com, pick up your DNA tests, swab your cheeks, send them in. Carmen will contact you. You'll get an email with the results. She'll go over those results if you want to set up an appointment with her. And you can find out what you're deficient in and what you're not deficient in, and how you can resolve those deficiencies. telling you it's great to have that kind of data at your disposal about yourself. I can't implore you enough to get it done. I mean, it's absolutely worth it. You'll be so amazed at the stuff you find out about yourself, you won't even believe it. And Carmen told me about this initially when she first mentioned it to me. I was all in. I was like, I want to know what my DNA says. It's like finding out the secrets that you didn't know about yourself that were hidden away, and then all of a sudden now you have it's like you have the playbook, you have your rule book to your body that you didn't know existed, and this is something that was not available 20 years ago.
Yeah,
it's really amazing. So I hope more people take advantage of that, Carmen.
I do too. Back in the day, Dave, I would have paid thousands of dollars to know one gene. Should I eat high protein or low protein?
Exactly.
It's so, there's so many amazing things in here, not to mention there's life-saving protocols in here for people. And I want people to know that you really are in the driver's seat of your health. And even if you have, slightly mutated or bad DNA, that's okay. It's just learning how to support those weak genes. And that's what we help you with. And we've seen amazing stories and results for years and years now. And the fact that it's so accessible, it's so affordable now, and the solutions and the action plans are so simple that if you want to make a change in your life, here's the tool to start with. This is your first thing that you need to know about yourself is your DNA. And then go from there. You start going down the different rabbit holes of like, what do I need to do now? Am I being a pro athlete, or am I trying to get pregnant, or am I trying to fight cancer or prevent cancer? Like there's all these different things that people deal with. But I will say that DNA and this information can help everybody.
I'm looking at my DNA right now, and I see that in vitamin D, vitamin B12, I'm terrible at methylating B12, vitamin C, vitamin B6, calcium, iron deficiency, and omega-3 fats. I have at least a 50% deficiency in those. And it's a good thing I take all those vitamins in very good quantities, because I probably would be deficient in them, no doubt. And I notice every time I go into the hospital and get a kind of a surgery, I notice after the surgery, my iron levels are low, and my red blood cells get low. And most people and most bodybuilders have high red blood cells and high hemoglobin hematocrit, which I normally do, but for some reason I'm vulnerable when there's damage being done to my body, usually through surgeries. And it makes sense because I don't really absorb, iron that well. So if I lose blood, or if I lose blood during a surgery, it's going to take my body longer to obviously recover from that. So I know that for a fact. So I know I'll eat foods that are higher in iron. I might even take an iron supplement for a few weeks to get my levels back up. I know they were giving me, after my cardiac surgery, they were giving me iron supplements for like a week or two, and it brought it right back up. So knowing these things about yourself is good, because you can tell the doctors what you're deficient in, because they don't know. And same thing, calcium. My calcium always drops when I'm in the hospital. They're always giving me calcium replacement, and it makes sense because I'm not good at absorbing calcium, obviously. Now I take a calcium supplement on a regular basis when I'm home every day, so I don't have that issue. But when you're in the hospital, you're not taking vitamins in the hospital. You can't bring your vitamins to the hospital. The only thing I snuck into the hospital was my fiber supplement. But aside from that, they don't want you having bottles of pills, in the hospital with you. So it's interesting, but there's a lot you can find out from your DNA. And you know what? I know I've been saying it. I want to test all my kids to know what their status is, so that, even though they don't really listen to anything I tell them, at least they'll know at some point, hey, this is what you're good at. This is what you're not good at. This is what you might need vitamin wise. This is what you might not need vitamin wise. And, sometimes weird traits that your kids have could be due to vitamin deficiencies.
Very true. I find with the little tykes, I've worked with a lot of little kids now. A lot of parents bring in their kids, Dave. Right. And beforehand, the kids wouldn't listen to the parents about what to eat and why they should eat it and blah, blah, blah. But I found that when you gave the child their report, these lights went off, and the children felt empowered with their own information. And it's amazing to me to see the outcomes of the parents telling me all the stories about how their kids are making these little changes, and they're not going to be perfect, but maybe they're eating little less of this and a little more of this. But there's something to be said for when you get this book and you're like, wow, this is really me. It's not just my mom telling me, it's not
Yeah.
my coach. This is me. And it's hard to unknow that information. Even as a child, they really pick it up. I remember this one little guy, he was 8 years old and he had ADHD. He had all these things. His parents were putting on meds. And I sat with him for an hour and gave him a DNA review, just like I would with an adult, explained things and drew pictures for him. And he's doing amazing. Like it's a really good success story. And I believe it was all because it's just taking the time with the little guys and saying, this is about you. This is you. And this is how you can be your best. And kids, they like that. They will pick up on that and make some changes.
Vitamins did you put the kid with ADH on?
That was quite a while ago, Dave, and it was methylated B vitamins, and his comp pathway was mutated. So we put him on quercetin, and there was one other one for protein. I have his file. I could look it up, but those are the ones I remember right off the top of my head.
Did it improve his ADHD?
Oh yeah, he's not on any meds anymore at all.
Wow,
and
that's awesome.
And a lot of it had to do with his gluten sensitivity too. He had major gluten. It's a 2.2 part 2 area that we test, and that directly affects the brain. And his mom just started buying all gluten-free pastas and rice and bread, and that did make a massive difference for him.
Have skin problems too because of the gluten?
I don't know actually. He was pretty young. He was 8. I don't think.
Do you see eczema linked to any of those gluten sensitivities and stuff like that?
So many, lots. Yeah, gluten seems to be a real culprit for a lot of different issues. For inflammatory response, it just seems to start this inflammatory cascade.
Yeah, right.
A whole bunch of different problems. And if somebody also on the backside doesn't respond well to inflammatory, it makes it 10 times worse.
Right. Well, guys, get your DNA tested from the DNA Diva herself, Carmen Tocheniuk. You can check out the DNA test at DavePalumbo.com. Pick them up. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or Carmen. Carmen, best way to get in touch with you?
Well, okay, so my email maybe, carmen@life.ca.
Okay. We'll put it
or through your site, Dave, for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll put those contacts in the description below. For now, we're out of time. I want to thank you for joining us today. Hopefully you enjoyed this. We're going to be doing more of these little supplement and science reviews because I think they're definitely beneficial and I know people really like it. For now, I'm Dave Palumbo with Carmen Tocheniuk. We'll see you next time.